In 2001, a group primarily made up of Seattle-based businessmen came together to establish the Basketball Club of Seattle. The ultimate goal has been and continues to be to preserve the future of professional basketball here in the Northwest region, and to do it in a way that I think reaffirms our commitment to our fans.
It is our desire to have the Sonics and Storm remain in Seattle. Sonics, Storm, and Seattle are synonymous, and we have great respect for history. If a commitment for a new building is not realized, then we will evaluate our options, which will include relocation.
The Sonics have a valid lease with the City of Seattle through 2010, and we intend to enforce that lease.
This is about making sure the NBA and the nation know that they can't come in and just take something from us and think we're going to lie down.
Save our Sonics! Save our Sonics! Save our Sonics!
The year was 1962. People from around the globe gathered in Seattle for the World's Fair. In preparation for the event, the city built the iconic Space Needle and the Washington State Coliseum. 5 years later, in 1967, the Coliseum welcomed the Seattle SuperSonics, courtesy of Los Angeles businessman Sam Schulman. In 1970, Schulman signed 20-year-old Spencer Haywood. With a bona fide superstar in Haywood and a future Hall of Famer named Lenny Wilkens, Schulman gradually built his team into a competitor. Pro sports are fun, Seattle decided. It wanted more. So in 1972, King County built the multi-purpose, weatherproof, gloriously sculpted Kingdome. In 1975, the team made its first playoffs. The 1977-78 Sonics established themselves as a juggernaut. The team made it to the NBA Finals, where it lost to the Washington Bullets in a Game 7 heartbreaker at home. The following year, the Sonics returned to the Finals, this time disposing of the Washington Bullets in 5 games to secure the city's first Major League sports title.
The champion in the NBA is the champion of the world.
There's never been any feeling like this in this town, not with the Seahawks, not with the Mariners.
Skipping school, coming down to the big rally. I mean, it was amazing to be part of that victory parade.
Watching JJ and Gus Williams, the Wizard, Dennis Johnson,
Freddie Brown, Jack Sikma, Lenny Wilkens. They were guys that everybody in town knew. They were like our guys.
The Sonics led the NBA in attendance that season, and 2 years later set a single-game attendance record in the Kingdome. Seeing an opportunity, Billboard king Barry Ackerley purchased the team in 1983.
I got here in '87, so you had Ellis, McDaniel, and Chambers, but it wasn't enough to get the Sonics to that next level. And then, of course, taking Sean Kemp, a kid that's essentially coming right out of high school that they draft, and that turned out, of course, to be a stroke of genius. They get the second pick in the 1990 draft. It turned out to be the playmaker that they needed, Gary Payton out of Oregon State.
Me and Gary from day one have always had good chemistry.
If I'm running down the court and I just hear him say, glove, or woo, I would throw the ball up and he'd go get it.
You know, I just enjoyed dunking on people.
I remember many nights walking out of the Key Arena and my ears ringing.
Everybody was going. That's all you talked about. Key Arena was rocking.
Those games were insane. All the analysts, all they're talking about is that this is the loudest arena in the NBA.
The basketball quality was the best it's ever been for a sustained period. From 93 to 98, the Sonics won over 60% of their games and, of course, made the finals.
Unfortunately, they ran into the winningest team in the history of professional basketball then and now, the Chicago Bulls, who won 72 games with a renewed Michael Jordan.
If we'd have went out and played the way we played in Game 4 and Game 5, we could have beat them.
The original sin, the place where this all began, was the signing of Jim McIlvaine. Jim McIlvaine is the apple in the Garden of Eden.
The Sonics front office signed unproven center Jim McIlvaine to a $33 million contract, alienating Sean Kemp, who had been lobbying for a new contract coming off an outstanding performance in the finals.
For guys that make it to the championship and then you go reward a guy for doing absolutely nothing, the respect factor was gone.
You can't fault McElvain for anything. They gave him the money, he took the money. I would have took it too.
In spite of the big contract I got, I felt like people really accepted me and embraced me.
Well, it was a mistake. I own it, I regret it, and it didn't work.
Kemp demanded a trade, and the Sonics obliged, sending him to Cleveland in a 3-team deal that brought Vin Baker to Seattle.
It was never about myself and my contract. I was more worried about the growth of the team.
He went from that very popular team of the 90s to George Karl finally coming to the end of his relationship with Wally Walker.
Well, the last year in Seattle was a nightmare. I found out of the Vin Baker trade 2 days before Wally talked to me about it.
George wasn't so good at keeping a secret.
A year later, following a 61-win regular season and a second-round playoff loss, the Sonics chose not to renew Karl's contract.
I wasn't really upset about us losing. I was upset about us breaking the team up.
In the summer of 1998, a disagreement between the NBA Players Union and the owners over the issue of a salary cap led the owners to declare a lockout. Most teams, including the Sonics, saw their ticket sales and revenue plummet. Sonics owner Barry Ackerley had tired of running a basketball team and put the franchise up for sale. Just as a baron of Seattle's booming tech industry had stepped up to save the Seahawks, Seattle's coffee king stepped in to buy the Sonics. With coffee conquered, Howard Schultz set his sights on the NBA. The man who was used to commanding an army of baristas now owned a business whose frontline employees made millions of dollars in guaranteed contracts and had egos to match.
When the Ackerleys let the team go, that's when everything changed. When you get a great owner who knows how to handle players in their situation, I think it changes a lot.
He did have a confidence in his ability to connect with the players. He thought he could motivate them in a way they didn't know they could be motivated.
He tried to run a basketball team like his coffee business.
Howard, I think, wanted to rewrite the way the business was done in the NBA and quickly found out that he was not going to be able to do that.
When you come into the sports arena, you get criticized. You know, he was a successful businessman. He was the leader of Starbucks.
In 2002, when Gary Payton held out of training camp, Howard took personal offense that Gary would do this.
I had been loyal to that team for 10, 11, 12 years, and it really hurt me, and I wasn't going to take the fall for looking like the bad guy.
It was just unfortunate that the owner would allow himself to get at odds with a key player like that, an iconic player in the market.
I think the fans of Seattle really got punished for this, and then the team went down from there on.
Even with a young superstar in Ray Allen, the new-look Sonics failed to make the playoffs for the next 2 seasons.
I didn't think the Sonics were a compelling product, to be quite honest with you. At the end of the day, it was mismanaged.
And I'll never forget when Gary went to the Lakers. I went down and did a story on him right before he came back up to Seattle for the first time. And I said, what are you going to say to Howard when you see him at midcourt? He said, I'm not going to say anything to his punk ass.
Seattle is the best city in the world.
There are a lot of cities in our league. If you were painting a picture, it would just kind of bleed into one city. But Seattle on its own stands apart.
The physical beauty of it is unmatched. You know, I still live here, probably live here forever.
I asked Jamal Crawford once in an interview why there were so many good young players playing in the NBA from the 206. He said, it's simple, it rains a lot and there's nothing else to do but go indoors and play hoop.
I've always been a big Sonics fan. They helped mold me. I used to hang with Gary Payton. He took me under his wing. I was like, wow, I want to be like that one day.
Those are the things that change kids' lives. It changed my life.
It's fathers and sons and families going to games. It's having a game in May that matters.
It's a chance for people to come together for 41 dates out of the year. And you have, I think, as good a mix of people as you possibly can have at a professional basketball game.
And those are intangibles that you can't put a price on it, and you can't really argue it to somebody who doesn't understand.
In February 2006, Seattle City Council President Nick Licata told Sports Illustrated that the Sonics' economic and cultural value to Seattle was, quote, close to zero.
The economic impact of the Sonics leaving, I think you can debate that with economists, and I think they'll point out that Seattle will still be a major city, so you can debate that to doomsday.
On February 23, 2006, Sonics ownership returned to Olympia to lobby for a key arena remodel, this time with NBA Commissioner David Stern by their side.
The NBA is very proud of the support that both the Sonics and the Storm have received from the Seattle community.
A graduate of Columbia Law School, Stern came up as a lawyer for the league. Commissioner Stern has presided over 3 franchise relocations. His publicly subsidized arena campaigns are well known and usually accompanied by a threat to relocate the team to a city that will pay. In 1995, the city renovated the Coliseum, renaming it Key Arena.
They got a beautiful building. It's intimate, the sight lines are great. I think Seattle should be very proud of what's going on here tonight.
Key Arena is not a state-of-the-art facility.
As a whole, this region does not want to fund publicly financed stadiums.
On September 19, 1995, King County voters rejected a proposal that would finance a new venue to keep the M's in Seattle. But the state legislature pushed through Safeco Field with a $500 million price tag. Seahawks owner Ken Behring packed the team up for a move to Los Angeles. Then, Microsoft moneyman Paul Allen stepped up to save the Seahawks, buying the team and keeping it in Seattle. Allen funded a public election in which King County approved the financing for a new multi-purpose stadium. Now that everybody was getting their own stadiums, it was time to blow up the Kingdome.
Substantial amount of work has been done for the baseball and football teams, and I'm here personally to find out whether the same is being considered fairly for the NBA. If not, that's a decision that we can accept, but then we'll have to act on it ourselves.
If we sold every ticket to every game, played at 100% capacity, we would still be below NBA average by a significant amount.
This ownership group did not get involved to make a profit, but I can assure you we did not get involved to lose $60 million, and with no light at the end of the tunnel either.
After airballing yet another shot at state arena funding, Schultz's ownership group began a contentious exchange with the region's elected officials.
The Schultz deals were about state subsidy, straight out state subsidy.
We are on a collision course with time, and we have no alternative on a go-forward basis if we can't solve the problem in front of us.
If the Sonics end up leaving, the burden of that is on the elected officials.
Although this is extremely difficult, and for me personally disappointing, I'm really proud to be able to announce that after careful analysis of all the possible scenarios, the Basketball Club of Seattle has entered into an agreement with the Professional Basketball Club, LLC, to purchase the Seattle SuperSonics and the Seattle Storm.
As it came to a vote as to whether the team should be sold or not, very controversial. It was a 5-4 vote, so as close as you can get, and the 5 were in favor.
As far back as 2004, when the Phoenix Suns were sold for $400 million, we'd began hearing rumors that Howard was done with the NBA and was looking for buyers.
When you look at what these owners pay for the teams when they buy them and what they get when they sell them, you can afford to lose several $1 million a year when your franchise goes up in value $3 or $4 million a year more than you're losing.
The bottom line is Howard Schultz made a killing. He somewhere is laughing on a beach, probably far away from Seattle, about how much money he actually made on that deal.
5 years ago, when I sat here and was in a position to buy the team, I remember saying that I viewed this as my responsibility as part of the public trust. Public trust.
Coming from him, I think it was just all empty rhetoric. I think coming from him, there is a lot of empty rhetoric. To me, if it is a public trust, he violated that public trust.
I took that responsibility to heart and very, very seriously. And culminating today, the responsibility is now passed on to this group and to Clay Bennett. And I believe in my heart that he understands the public trust of Seattle and the Northwest and is going to try and do everything he can to keep the team here. We arrived at a place with a buyer who really wants to stay here. And we would not have sold it to a new owner who we felt was going to take the team away.
Clay Bennett was born and raised in Oklahoma City. Bennett founded the private investment firm Dorchester Capital, making millions investing his wife's family fortune. In 2005, when Hurricane Katrina made it impossible for the Hornets to continue playing basketball in New Orleans, Bennett helped his old friend David Stern temporarily relocate the team to Oklahoma City for 1.5 seasons.
I honestly believe that this group, led by Clay, wants to stay in Seattle, and I believe that they are better positioned than we are to convince the city, the state, and obviously political leaders that if they can't arrive at an acceptable deal, that unfortunately the team wouldn't stay here.
I think you can all appreciate the skepticism from the fan base and also from the press. And I wanted to ask Mr. Bennett about your fans back home. The perception in Oklahoma City, not just in Seattle, is that the Sonics are coming to town.
Ultimately, we hope for basketball in Oklahoma City, but it's unrelated to this transaction. We are committing to a 12-month process by which we will act in good faith and give our best efforts to develop a successor facility.
There was a proposal to build the most expensive arena in the NBA at the worst traffic intersection in the state of Washington. These guys weren't serious. They made no significant effort to pass that bill. Nothing.
If the legislature wasn't going to help a local guy that many of them knew personally and who probably contributed to some of their campaigns, why would they help a total stranger who they presumed automatically was going to take the team out?
Meanwhile, the Sonics stumbled through a disastrous season, finding themselves in the draft lottery.
We got that great shot and got the second pick in the draft in Kevin Durant. We really thought when that happened, things would pick up in the market. It was never to be because, of course, Ray Allen was traded and Rashard Lewis did not come back, and certain things happened that year in that draft, and it was unfortunate.
Shortly after the draft, Bennett's group quietly severed all ties with Sonics' past. These front office decisions only reaffirmed what everyone already suspected. Bennett intended to gut the team, dump salary, and prepare for a move. The financial backing for this purchase came mainly from Bennett's high school buddy Aubrey McClendon and McClendon's former business partner Tom Ward. McClendon alone was worth $2.8 billion at the time of the Sonics sale. During an interview with Oklahoma City journalists, McClendon let slip the true intention of the PBC. The NBA gave McClendon a $250,000 slap on the wrist.
I have never had that conversation with Aubrey. I've never had that conversation with any other member of our ownership group. He calls it his stroke moment. He doesn't even know what he was saying. Key Arena is not a viable NBA arena. A renovated Key Arena is not a viable NBA arena.
Basketball-wise, it's a great arena to play in and to watch a game, and I don't think that was ever the issue.
I like arena to have a little bit of some soul, and the Key Arena had some soul to it.
That's part of the broken economic model. You can't have an intimate setting anymore. You have to have these huge buildings that bring in revenue from places besides tickets.
The franchise will not remain in this marketplace without a new arena facility.
If we took no for an answer, we wouldn't be here today.
Born in Chicago but raised in Seattle, Mayor Greg Nichols claims he can remember where he stood during the Sonics' 1979 championship parade. He was elected Seattle's mayor in 2001 and generally had little to do with the Sonics, until the team was about to leave town, that is. Then he became the last line of defense. On September 24th, 2007, the Nichols administration filed a lawsuit against the Sonics to block any attempt to break their Key Arena lease. Meanwhile, on the court, the Sonics sputtered out of the gate to a 3-15 start.
In order to get fans to pay these premium dollars, you've got to have some kind of a goal. You've got to have hope.
Players were off limits. Media never really got to know the young Kevin Durant and Jeff Green. They were completely kept at arm's length.
Their whole game plan was to get out of town and create as much ill will in the process as they could.
I've said repeatedly what our intentions are, and that's what they are, is to be successful here.
It was a very well done manipulation.
There was a cloud over Seattle the last couple times I came back.
It was a team living in denial.
You know, there's a lot of things we couldn't control as players, yet we're the ones to answer questions about it because we're the ones with the cameras and the microphones in our face a lot. I think overall fans don't like to see teams move, and I don't think David Stern likes it. I don't think anybody likes it, but I mean, it's part of a bigger business that a lot of people, including myself, don't really understand.
I mean, I can feel where the fans are coming from. You know, as a fan growing up, if they say they're going to take the Wizards out of D.C., I feel the same way.
It's like fighting against a hurricane. Yeah, you have hope the hurricane's not going to blow your house down. But good luck with that. I mean, it was psychic pain. It was humiliation and powerlessness.
You know, who knows? Maybe there's some last-minute wonderful angel who will drop into the laps of the people of Seattle and come up with an arena plan and funding for it.
Good afternoon and welcome. There is, in fact, a new local group that is willing to work with us in securing the future of Key Arena and the Seattle SuperSonics.
We had Steve Ballmer not only offering to purchase the team and to keep it here, but offering to pay half of the cost of the Key Arena remodel. Mr. Schultz and his group never made any such promise at all. Next month, the relocation committee of the National Basketball Association is going to vote on Clay Bennett's desire to move the team to Oklahoma City. I want the ability with representatives of the city to go back to New York City and tell the NBA before they make this decision, we've got a place and we've got the people and we've got a much better city in which to play basketball. But I can only do that if the legislature gives us this authorization now.
Seattle SuperSonics, our basketball buy.
4 days after the sale was announced, we had a group of volunteers passing out flyers and t-shirts.
Save our Sonics! Save our Sonics!
I understand how passionate Sonics fans are. I've known that all the way along. I'm a Sonics fan myself. I understand how passionate taxpayers are. I've heard from them loud and clear.
I just think there was such a tremendous burnout on this issue, with the team going back year after year to Olympia.
The Speaker of the House, Frank Chop, didn't want to have a vote.
He is the gatekeeper. Nothing was going to come up and be voted on or passed in the legislature without his approval, and he didn't approve.
Mayor Greg Nichols says a plan to renovate Key Arena with a group of local investors has fallen through.
We have a court date in June. We have a lease that calls for the team to play another 2 seasons in Key Arena. It ain't over till it's over.
Could it be the smoking gun that helps keep the Sonics in Seattle? Emails last April suggest that the plan was to move the team to Oklahoma City all along.
Tom Ward starts the conversation. Is there any way to move here for next season, or are we doomed to have another lame duck season in Seattle? To which Clay Bennett responds, I am a man possessed. We'll do everything we can. Thanks for hanging with me, boys. The game is getting started. That's the spirit. I'm willing to help any way I can to watch ball here next year. Finally, Aubrey McClendon signals his approval.
I clearly recall that email exchange. My absolute feeling and notion in that email is I'm a man possessed. I am only beginning. I will do everything I can to get this done in Seattle. And there's been an enormous misunderstanding of that, misrepresentation of that. It's been misconstrued, I'm not sure which. But I was speaking about my commitment to a process in Seattle.
Those emails showed pretty conclusively that they're liars.
Meanwhile, Bennett and Commissioner Stern were busy corresponding on a more heartfelt, deeply personal level. Stern to Bennett, it pains me to see the situation you are in, and I have difficulty conjuring a happy ending in Seattle, but I appreciate your efforts and very greatly value our friendship. Bennett to Stern, you know how I feel about our relationship, both personally and professionally. I view you as a role model and as an extraordinarily gifted executive, a deep and compassionate thinker. You are just one of my favorite people on earth, and I so cherish our relationship. On the same day these emails leaked, Governor Christine Gregoire made a campaign stop in Seattle. The event was well attended by an unexpected constituency, Sonics fans.
Save our Sonics!
The Sonics are our team, and they're going to stay in the great state.
But as campaign season was gearing up, the NBA season was winding down. The team had lost 18 of 20 on their way to a franchise-worst 20-62 record.
You know, it'd be a shame if this is it, because this is a great place to play.
You know, I didn't want it to happen. You know, that's why I was there.
I almost cried, to be honest with you. People saying this might be the last game in Seattle.
Pitiful cries to a disinterested God. That's what I kept thinking.
It's hard for me to understand why the NBA ownership would want to leave a market that they've been in for 41 years.
The economics of team ownership at the present time, except in very unusual circumstances, require some kind of public assistance.
The NBA makes plenty of money to build arenas. Plenty of money.
You got schools in Seattle that cannot pay for enough books.
The NBA squeezes a city and says, look, if you want a team, yeah, you got to pay for it.
It is a national issue fought locally.
I think we ought to be able to do it and have the NBA exist on its own without being subsidized. And I think it would work.
Howard Schultz, after being bashed in the local press for selling the team to Bennett, shocked everyone by announcing that he would sue Bennett for breach of contract. Schultz claimed that the leaked emails proved that Bennett never intended to keep the team here, thus violating the condition of the sale, requiring him to make a good-faith best effort to keep the team in Seattle. Unfazed, David Stern and the NBA's Board of Governors met as planned in New York.
A tough day for Sonic fans as NBA owners vote 28-2 in favor of moving the team to Oklahoma City.
Staying versus going to Oklahoma City, which is better for the NBA, and I think staying's better.
We could not engender the leadership of the marketplace to support the development of a new building.
There's a $300 million proposal out there. Is that a significant proposal and something that could solve the problem?
Actually, there's no proposal out there right now, and I don't think you would mean to misrepresent that to me, would you?
I thought that they were questions that a lot of people had wanted answered for several months at that point. But would it be something that would be viable for an NBA arena in the future?
I'm not going to talk about how many angels you can fit upon the head of a pin, because that's just a perpetual subject that gets discussed and discussed and discussed, and nothing ever gets done.
He was representing certain economic interests that exist in that room, and the owners wanting to move. Over the last week or so, there's been several emails that have come out, including a lengthy email exchange between you and Mr. Bennett, and emails between Mr. Bennett and his fellow owners. Have you had a chance to read through those emails?
My response, as I've been reminded, wasn't lengthy at all. So
have you read through those emails, especially those between Mr. Bennett and the other owners?
Live or not, I don't like to be interrupted, and I'm not going to interrupt you. So why don't we just go to the next question?
I think the NBA has to make an example of a couple of teams every now and then so that they have a credible threat against other cities.
You said Seattle was a great city with great fans, but if even great cities with great fans can lose their longtime team, what does that say to other cities?
Well, I guess since most of our cities have, or the great majority have, state-of-the-art facilities that enable their teams to compete in our league, I think it says congratulations to them.
Today's vote by the NBA Board of Governors does not change our efforts.
Decisions have now been made, and the path is clear.
We're going to go and we're going to fight our case in federal court in June. If we're successful in that, we think that that gives us a couple of seasons to be able to find answers to these questions.
I think that Senator Gorton and the mayor are determined to exact whatever pound of flesh is possible here, and they will, and then the team will leave.
The NBA had officially approved relocation, but there was still the small matter of the lease, which required the Sonics to play 2 more years at Key Arena. This one was headed where so many disputes end up, the courtroom.
The city was putting money, investing in Key Arena for basically one tenant, the Seattle SuperSonics. So it was important to the city to get a specific performance lease.
Over the 13 years that the Sonics had operated at Key Arena under this lease, the world had changed around them.
The economics of professional basketball had changed. The competitiveness of Key Arena as a sports venue had changed.
Mr. Bennett knew the terms of the Key Arena lease when he bought the team from Howard Schultz. The terms of the lease did not change.
This was a big trial. In a very dramatic fashion, the city called as its first witness the mayor of the city of Seattle. He became a vehicle for us to immediately introduce into the case all of the themes that were the cornerstones of the defense's case.
A couple of times he was tripped up on things that he had said in his deposition that were, I don't think at the end of the day, substantively very different.
During the break, I was able to read what the press and the bloggers were saying about how the mayor was getting diced up pretty good in there.
Should not move. I want to raise my jersey in the rafters here in Seattle. Save our Sonics! Save our Sonics! Hey, Clay! No way! Hey, Clay! No way! Hey, Clay! No way! Try off. I gotta go catch it back.
Keep the team here! Keep the team here! You hear me, Bennett? Save our Sonics! Keep the team here!
I gave him a ration of shit.
Oh, you walk out or not?
We walked right out that door here.
Oh.
With two guards.
Door right here?
Right here.
Oh.
Right here. I was the guy God intended to kick his ass verbally, okay? And I did so.
Nice work.
If anyone bothered to read the testimony of Clay Bennett, they would have seen it was very damaging.
I thought the trial was a tremendous embarrassment for the NBA. They had the owner of the NBA team call as a witness one of the nation's fiercest anti-sports critics to testify that the NBA brought no value whatsoever to this city.
As the trial came to a close, Keller would make the case that the city colluded with Slade Gorton and Steve Ballmer to bleed the team and force them to sell.
What the Poison Well memo did was quite graphically lay out what was a Machiavellian strategy orchestrated by Slade Gorton and Steve Ballmer's lieutenants to try and bleed the Oklahoma ownership group to death.
Poison well, those were Bennett's own words. They were in the PowerPoint because Clay Bennett himself has said, the well is poisoned here for me in Seattle. We thought it could be a good deal for him. Hey, you got local ownership to take you out of an untenable situation, an expensive situation.
I think the mood in the room with all the reporters was that the city of Seattle was getting schooled.
That was theatrics. That was playing to the media.
When people feel like maybe they're losing, a common thing they do is say, the lawyer on the other side is being theatrical. I take that as a compliment.
And the media seemed to love it, but again, the media is not the decision maker. We were going to win this case by convincing Judge Peckman that the Sonics are a unique tenant and the city is entitled to specific performance.
With a one-week break after closing arguments, the city, the NBA, and the PBC nervously awaited Judge Peckman's verdict. But with less than an hour before the verdict announcement, Mayor Nichols and Clay Bennett called simultaneous press conferences.
Today I am announcing a settlement with Mr. Bennett and the Professional Basketball Club. In exchange for terminating the lease 2 years early, Mr. Bennett has agreed to a settlement package with a payment of up to $75 million to the city of Seattle.
We made it. Congratulations. The NBA will be in Oklahoma City next season, playing their games.
Under the agreement, $45 million will be paid to the city immediately. Our agreement calls for Mr. Bennett and his co-owners to pay an additional $30 million in 5 years, 2013, if the NBA has not approved a team to play in Seattle.
The transition and the move of this operation and this team begins tomorrow morning from Seattle to Oklahoma City.
I always thought there would be a settlement, but I never thought the settlement would just be us caving.
They let a team with a 41-year legacy leave the way they did without a fight.
It was clear to me the city was going to win the case, and to settle it without seeing the result of that trial made no sense.
I wanted to see that decision. It was sitting on her desk when we went in and tell her about the settlement agreement. I wanted to just grab it and look at it.
Mayor said for so long that this is not about money. This is not about money. And he said it time and time again. This is not about money. But at the end, it was about money.
I believe that all along, enforcing our lease would create time for us to come to a better arrangement. We now have that deal.
All for what? The right to pay off the lease on Key Arena, to add a few more dollars into the operating budget. I thought it was very short-sighted.
Oh, this is okay, we're going to get another team. The NBA still likes us now. Hey, if we had fought this for 2 years, they wouldn't like us anymore. Come on, man, you just sold us down the river and you think this is a good thing?
If I had felt any degree of psychic pain on the part of our city's leadership at that moment, I could have dealt with it. Nichols and Burgess and whoever was up there sort of laughed. That fake political laughter.
The mayor has repeatedly stressed the importance to me of keeping the Sonics here. Short of that, this is a very good deal.
The settlement agreement not only required the ownership group to pay the city $45 million, it also put them on the hook for an additional $30 million in 5 years.
Now the state legislature must act. If it fails to approve public funding next year to remodel Key Arena, we will lose our rights to that second $30 million.
In 2009, the state legislature once again failed to take advantage of Steve Ballmer's $150 million offer, letting Clay Bennett waltz away with the final $30 million he owed the city as part of the settlement agreement.
The city of Seattle offended a lot of people with how they handled that settlement down in Olympia.
The city said, we have a deal. It's great. All that needs to happen is those people over there have to tax themselves to solve this problem.
I put the primary blame at this point on the Washington State Legislature and especially its leadership. The mayor stood up. They refused to do their part.
The agreement was based on the supposition that we could have the legislature pass the $75 million. When that didn't happen, it went from being a really good agreement to being a really bad agreement.
Clay Bennett owed the city $30 million, and we let, go ahead.
If the city of Seattle would not have taken that buyout, I don't think Clay Bennett and Aubrey McClendon would have held on to the team.
Even if they had lost and appealed, the Sonics would have had to play one more year in Seattle. There was no way it could have been resolved by then. And we all know what happened. Within 4 months of that year, one of their main owners, Aubrey McClendon, lost 90% of his fortune.
We were looking at some stats that are now being tossed around like on ESPN's websites, and you'll notice all that stuff has shifted to Oklahoma now. But if we don't terminate the lease, we basically walk away from $45 million.
Okay, please call the roll on the passage of the bill.
Licata. Aye. McIver. Aye. Rasmussen. Aye. Burgess. Aye. Drago. Aye. Godin. Aye. Harrell.
I need a moment. Aye.
President Conlon.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed.
The bill passes and the chair will sign it.
Several weeks later, on the Friday of a holiday weekend, Howard Schultz quietly dropped his lawsuit, dashing any last hopes of a miracle court ruling to save the Sonics.
Howard and I had a good relationship when we worked together. We don't have one now, and most as a result of the way the whole thing came down with the sale of the franchise.
I viewed this as my responsibility as part of the public trust.
He forgot that he had a responsibility to the citizens of this city. And I blame him and judge him and condemn him for that.
We arrived at a place with a buyer who really wants to stay here.
Just 2 months after the settlement, the Oklahomans renamed the franchise. The team once known as the Sonics was now the Oklahoma City Thunder.
It was a shock to the system. I was disappointed. I loved being in Seattle, like I said.
There's a definite emptiness. It's not the same without the NBA here.
There aren't many teams that have been in one place for 4 decades.
No more Sonics makes no sense at all to me. There's great history and tradition to the Sonics, and why we now don't have it bothers the hell out of me.
What are the winters like getting through the week now? Not easy. I mean, it is death. The winters are depressing. They're gray and monotonous. We had Ray Allen here. Ray Allen is very likely the best shooter who has ever lived. There were 41 nights a year, 50 nights a year, when you could have gone and seen that. The ultimate expression of a human endeavor. The ultimate expression of a human skill. The ultimate expression of human dedication. The way in which one man, through years of hard work, through his own passion, through his own poetry, became the very best in human history at one thing. And people let that go.
I hope a team gets back here. I think the market definitely will support it. They did for 41 years.
And I don't think that it'll be too long before another team gets to Seattle.
People around the league hold out a lot of hope that eventually a team will return to Seattle and that team will once again be referred to as the Seattle Sonics.
The thing is, if we get a team, it's going to be somebody else's team. It's not going to be a new franchise. To get a team, I'm going to have to break the hearts of people just like me, who will then have to go in front of cameras and talk about their pain like this. And that's the only way we're going to get a team.
Of iniquity is thick in my circumference, untouched and none when they summoned up the punishment. Son sent to war for the grunt work of the government. All debts were paid on the last day of judgment. I've heard purported it's approaching with celerity. Proselytes testify with utmost sincerity. I don't think he's coming, y'all try me for heresy. But what's all the stalling for? A little more disparity.
What's the Sasquatch doing now, you think? Out panhandling with his Sasquatch outfit on. It's very sad. A lot of people get hurt. Sasquatches, and it's not just the team.
With the sergeants, I'm tired of waiting, slide the blade across it now. Sing. I can't take this rain. I can't stand this rain.